Look around. This world is not as it ought to be. Division, disease, discrimination, things are not okay. But this is not how it was intended, and God was not okay with it. He had to make a way back from darkness to light, from death to life. So he dropped a man into this atmosphere, like an explosion of hope and like a billion fireworks lighting up the darkest night. He revealed the better way, the best way, the only way to truly live. He came to revive a dying world and divided cultures, to revive despairing hearts and desperate lives, to revive us all. Things are not okay. We need revival.
I don't know if you've ever been to a funeral, but it's a weird experience. I know, it's a pretty dark way to start, right? I remember the first funeral I ever had to attend. My great-grandma died when I was in 5th grade. Now, it's not that I wasn't sad about it, but honestly, I really didn't know the lady that well. I remember going over to her house a few times when I was like a little kid, and she had a bucket of toys for us, which was pretty much an empty Honey Bear bottle and some like loose yarn. She also had that crazy toilet contraption that maybe you've seen. It's like if you took a walker and you added the toilet seat and you parked it over your toilet. Let me tell you, being 5 and trying to navigate peeing at your great-grandma's house with that obstacle in the way, it was rough. Anyway, I remember coming home one day and my mom was really sad, and she broke the news to me that great-grandma had died and that the funeral was gonna be in a few days, so I'd have to miss school to go. Now sure, I was sad. I mean, it's sad when anyone dies, but mostly I was nervous about this whole funeral thing. So a few days later, I had to put on my fancy clothes and I hopped in the car with my parents to go to great-grandma's funeral. Everything about it was weird and uncomfortable. You're in this funeral home, which is sort of like an old school church, but also kind of different. And then the casket is sitting at the front of the room with the lid open so that people can say their final goodbyes. That part freaked me out, for sure. I refused to go anywhere near the front of the room. And then after the ceremony, we got in this long line of cars to go to the cemetery. Now, I've seen movies. That's where ghosts live. Why on earth would we go there? And so we walk out in the middle of the cemetery, and there's this giant hole that they've already dug, and then some people say some more nice things, and then we all leave while they start lowering the casket into the hole. It was by far one of the weirdest and most uncomfortable days of at least the first 10 years of my life. And listen, I'm not trying to make light of something as serious as death. I know that some of you in here right now, you've lost someone you really, really care about, and that hurts. It's normal for it to hurt. But I want you to know that death feels weird for all of us. Like, as human beings, we're uncomfortable with this whole idea of death. And I think that's hardwired into us. There's this part of us, like deep in our souls, that knows that death is not the way the things are supposed to be. And whenever we lose someone or we find ourselves at a funeral, yes, we're sad that this person is gone, but we're also reminded that things in this world are not the way they were originally designed to be. We've been talking the last couple weeks about this word revive and how Jesus came to revive our broken world. You don't have to look far to see that things are kind of a mess, right? You've got violence, hatred, just constant fighting, relationships falling apart. The Bachelorette is still on the air. When God created the world, this is not what he had in mind. He also didn't have death in mind. He created mankind to live forever with him, and we chose death instead. But God was not okay with just letting us make a mess of things. He immediately began working on a plan to revive everything. And I think one of the clearest proofs of this is found in John chapter 11. It's this amazing story that proves just how powerful Jesus is and how he can revive absolutely anything. Here's what happened. Jesus had these 3 friends, 2 sisters and a brother named Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. And Jesus was traveling around, teaching and healing people, doing his whole Jesus thing. And he gets a message that his friend Lazarus is sick, like dangerously sick. And the sisters were asking Jesus to come over and heal him. Now, Jesus was only a few miles away, but he chose to stay where he was for a couple more days. Now, he wasn't being mean. It wasn't that he didn't love Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. In fact, they were actually some of his best friends. But Jesus had a plan, and he knew exactly what was supposed to happen with this situation. So after a couple more days, he said to his disciples, "Okay, let's head over and wake Lazarus up." And they had no idea what he was talking about. But Jesus knew that Lazarus was already dead, and it was time to go do something awesome. And as Jesus approached the town where his friends lived, listen to what it says. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." Now I want you to notice a couple things. Mary is so mad that she doesn't even want to see Jesus. She doesn't understand why any of this happened, why Jesus didn't come sooner, why he didn't revive this broken situation. Martha is also upset, but she's at least willing to go talk to Jesus about it. If only you had been here, my brother would not have died. Have you ever been there with God? Something is going on in your life and you hate it. It's just the worst. And you've been crying out to God and begging him to make it all go away, and for some reason he just doesn't do what you want him to do. I know I've been there. God, if you would just get my parents to stop fighting. God, if you would just bring my dad back. God, if you would just make them stop saying the things they're saying about me online or behind my back. God, if you would just, and then fill in the blank. And when God doesn't do what we think he should do in the time frame we think he should do it, it's easy to lose heart, to start to wonder if maybe there are some things that Jesus simply can't revive. They're just broken, nothing we can do about it. I'm sure that's what Mary and Martha thought. Their brother had been dead for 4 days already. It doesn't get much more unrevivable than that. But this is Jesus we're talking about. So watch what happens next. Mary finally comes out to see Jesus, and she's crying uncontrollably. Then it says this: "When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled." And don't miss this part, the shortest verse in the whole Bible. Then Jesus wept. Jesus was so upset to see all of his friends in pain, to see that his friend had died, to see right in front of his face just how broken the world that he loved had become. It moved him, and he wept with them. Whatever is broken in your life, Jesus cares about it. That thing that has you crying alone in your room, it makes Jesus cry too. He cares so deeply for you that he feels your pain when you hurt. But here's what's so amazing about Jesus. There is nothing going on in your life that he doesn't have the power to revive. Watch what he does. They all walk out to the burial site, and he tells them to roll the massive stone away from the entrance to the tomb. And then they start to argue with him. But Jesus, he's been in there for days. It's gonna smell so bad. But Jesus insists. So they roll the stone away. Jesus says a quick prayer, and then he yells, "Lazarus, come out." And the dead man came out, his hands and feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him go." Listen, Lazarus was as broken as anyone can be. He was dead, beyond help. It was game over. And Jesus was still able to revive him. And if he can do that for Lazarus, Jesus can revive anything in your life. A relationship, a family situation, that thing you did that you think makes you unlovable, Jesus can revive all of it. Because here's the deal. Yes, this is a story about a specific man who physically died and Jesus brought back to life, but it's also a picture of what Jesus did for all of us on a much bigger scale. He saw that people were stuck in their own sin. And all the choices we make to turn away from God, to do what we want to do, to hurt other people for our own gain, he saw that we were hopelessly stuck and separated from God by sin. So he came to revive that, to fix it. Jesus took the punishment we all deserved for our sin by willingly dying on a cross so that anyone who trusts in him can be revived, can be made completely clean and given back their life. And we can trust that this is true because not long after the Lazarus event, there was another tomb and another stone, and this time it was Jesus lying there wrapped in grave clothes. And Jesus stood up and walked out of that tomb alive, signifying that sin and death no longer had the final say in what would happen to you and me. We can be revived. All we have to do is ask. And some of you in here today have never made that decision. You've never said, "Jesus, I need to be revived." And if that's you, I want to give you the chance to do that today. Your host is going to come back out and walk you through what that looks like. But if you've been trying to revive your own life, you've been trying to fix the stuff that's broken without handing it over to Jesus, maybe it's time to let go and ask Jesus to step in and revive whatever is broken in your life.